third show of Good Afternoon. Welcome to the third series of Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition. Our guest today will be Marc Williams, and hold that thought. We'll be right back.
Cozy Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Cozy has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Cozy's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Cozy Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
We are back. Can we please bring in our mama's boy of the day, Mr. Marc Williams? And before we get started, I want to say to my audience, first and foremost, that this show is not about parent shaming. The purpose of this show is to simply bring on responsible parents, people who have done the job, have lifted and towed the hoe to bring responsible parents into the world, otherwise known as responsible adults. We know that parenting does not come with a manual, and we know that there is no such thing as a perfect parent. I'm going to ask a series of questions that will give you an idea of where this parent came from, who his role models were, and how he was able to evolve and develop, and is still developing, because this parent still has children at home that he's going to lease out in life one day, and we're all going to be grateful. Welcome, Marc Williams. How are you today?
I am doing so awesome, Cozy. I've been looking forward to this conversation. You are a beacon of light, joy, and happiness.
Oh, and I pay him well to say those wonderful things about me. So let's delve in. Let's take advantage of these 30 minutes. I can be respectful of your time and my audience time. I'm always curious to know, where were your parents born, and how old were they when you were born?
Good question, Cozy. And my answer to that question is I know and I don't know.
Okay.
And I think that's really important for me to say. I don't know because I grew up not knowing who my father was. To this day, I still don't know who my father is. I've heard different theories, but have no idea. So I don't know who he is. I don't know when he was born. I don't know anything about his age, nothing. But I do know that my mommy, was born in 1934, December 28th in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And I will tell you, I did the math because I never thought about how young or old or what age my mommy was when she had me. So I did the math and figured out that my mommy was about 28 years old when she had little Marc Williams, her only child.
Oh my God, are you a rotten egg?
I am.
Oh my God, that is so nice to know. Because you don't
well,
have
it might not be so nice to know when I tell you that when I was old enough, I went into my mother's closet and I saw this thing. And I think what I saw was the whatever it is that, proved that my mother had a tube tied after I was born. So, how bad was I?
So were you born in Brooklyn?
I was born in Brooklyn.
Okay. And just to give the audience an idea, again, everything will put everything together. What year were you born?
I was born in 1972.
Okay. Because when I asked my guest, I want the audience to get an idea of generation, what was going on at that time for your mother's life and for yours. So let's go to you for a moment. How old were you when you had your first child?
I was 35 when I had my first child. Yeah, yeah. I waited a
Wow.
while. I waited a
Yes, you
while.
did. When you met your partner, I would imagine this is the woman you're married to now. What were some of the qualities that you looked at to say this would be a good partner or a good parent to help me bring children into the world?
Well, to answer that question, I would say I was looking for a partner. I don't know if I was ever looking for a co-parent. I don't know if that was ever my thought. I always wanted to have children. I always wanted to have a family, but I was always looking for a partner. And what amazes me about my wife way before I met her is how super supportive, how super social, how super friendly she is. I mean, we were both teachers in the same school, and the kids loved her. And I could understand why. She just has an open heart and a friendly smile. And yeah, she's an amazing and wonderful and super supportive person.
All right, so that ties into my next question. You may have answered it, but I'm going to break it down anyway. What did you like most? Was it her beauty, her brains, or her brawn?
I guess I'd be cheating if I said all three, right? So I won't cheat, and I will say that ultimately it was her brains, because her brains is a part of her personality, and I find that we think in a very similar way, even though we come from two different worlds.
Okay. So now you've met this wonderful person. You realize that this could be someone that you could bring responsible adults into the world. Was the pregnancy planned or unplanned?
The pregnancy was planned because my wife, way before she ever became my wife, had a dream of having three children. So, and we have three children. So that was always the plan.
So, this doesn't happen often, but it still does. So you met her, got to know her, got married.
Yes.
Am I correct? And
Yes.
then you planned your family.
Yes, we had our first child a year after we got married.
Okay. And then once you found out with all of this taken into consideration, what struck your heart most? Was it the fear or the fantasy of being a parent?
The fear, the fear, the fear.
Okay.
Yeah. Being a parent is a scary thing.
I know that. That's why we know I'm not. Some of the things, something I realized from talking to, sometimes I feel like Barbara Walters because I talk to everybody and ask them all their business. And if I don't ask, they reveal it to me. One of the things that I've heard is the difference in parenting. Were there, or tell me, were there and what were some of her upraisings and your upraisings that either clashed or worked together?
Again, we came from two different lifestyles. My wife is white and Jewish. She grew up in Long Island with both of her parents, both professionals, both educators. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, a fatherless child with a stepdad and a mom who could not read or write. We grew up in the projects in East New York, Brooklyn. So we could not have been further apart. One of the things that I picked up about my wife's upbringing is the relationship that she had with her brother and her parents. They found a lot of comfort in kind of debate, or I won't say that they were a family that argued, but they were a family that if she had an opinion about something, she would express it. I came from a different humble. I didn't say anything. My mother said, "Stay here." I stood there. And I think that showed up when we were parents.
And
you
there it
know.
is. And that is my question. So just give me two. I mean, I'm sure, and I'm a New Yorker who grew up around lots of wonderful Jewish New Yorkers. I have a sense of lots of them. So if you can think just off the top of your head, something that she said it's okay and you didn't think it would be okay.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's the difference in
I,
upbringing, and I hear it all the time. And it is a big deal. Hmm. Oh my God, I'm
ooh.
stumped.
You did. I'm gonna say it's the reverse. I was okay, even as small babies, and definitely as toddlers. I was okay if they cried it out. She was not okay if they cried it out. I've got to find something. To me, it was like you cry it out. It's not that big of a deal. It'll make you stronger. But she was like, no, no, we got to rock. We got to feed. We got to do something. So that was a big difference between the two of us. Yeah, that was one. That was the one thing that comes off the top of my head. As far as a second thing that she was okay with, that I was not okay with. Um,
Well, let me stop you.
she's
Go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead. No, go.
she's okay with talking about anything and everything. You talk about the birds and the bees and all that stuff. I am the prude, and she is the open book.
Okay.
Mhm.
So again, you come from a single background, single mother, not single background. She had this support system. So my question, I'm almost going to answer it. What kind of support system was in place before you had your family? And the answer is uh, her parents. It's different when it's a planned pregnancy too. This question is a different question when
Okay.
it's planned by two adults. So I really am gonna go past that. So here's one question. Give me three things, and even if two, that you considered, because you can't talk for her, as you were planning your kid, or as soon as the doctor says she's pregnant. What are three things that you considered before bringing this new infant adult into the world?
The first thing, Cozy, that came to my mind was money. And how do I afford this child? How do I afford the second child? How do we afford the third child? As a matter of fact, I will even tell you, Cozy, as we were even talking about children, that was my initial concern so much that it almost, I won't say prevented, it almost stalled and postponed having children because I was so concerned about being able to afford it. Children are expensive. Um, so that was a big thing for me to think about. The other thing for me to think about was where we are going to live. You know, when I think about where I grew up in East New York, Brooklyn, it was not easy growing up there. And so for me, it was very important where they were going to live. And then I would say finally, and because I'm a career educator, it was very important for me to think about what school are they going to go to, and you know, how can I set them up for success in terms of that. So school, neighborhood, and money were my three biggest concerns when I found out we were having children.
Very, very important. Things
Mhm.
that sometimes, again, not readily given enough consideration to. And at the end of the day, it makes a difference to their tomorrows. So thank you for those answers. So we've gotten to what I call the standard questions, and I ask you to pick questions that you wanted to talk about. So let's get to the number one question. Were you prepared? And you sort of answered it, but again, mentally, emotionally, and or financially. And
I
you
want to
may have
say
given some of those answers, but if you will.
I want to say that I was prepared mentally because I knew that the woman I chose to marry wanted to have three children. I would say that I was somewhat prepared emotionally, but still afraid of what it meant to actually be a parent. You know, it's one thing to be a good teacher in a school building, it's another thing when they're your actual children. Um, I go back to financially. That was my biggest concern. And I think we were doing okay financially, but I always had my concerns. I always had my concerns. And I will tell you, Cozy, the manifestation of one of my biggest concerns happened after all three children were born, and we were standing in a pizzeria, and they wanted pizza. And Cozy, I will tell you, living check to check, waiting for the next one to come in, my biggest concern in that pizza shop was that one of them was going to ask for water. And I didn't know how I was going to muster up enough change after buying 3 slices to get them water. You know, I can now tell you I'm in a different state now, and I am able to give my children. So I'm not worried about that anymore. But that was early in parenting. So being financially secure was a big concern for me. And it's been a big driving force for me as well.
Well, being that I do have some years and some of life over you, as far as I can remember, no one ever charged us for water. Is that because you didn't know, or were they trying to charge you for water?
Oh, that's because, well,
oh,
I guess
wait.
I cannot.
Are we talking bottled water?
Yeah.
See, this is
Cozy, I wasn't smart enough. My mother would have said, first of all, you get a cup of water, or you can wait till we get home. I was trying to buy bottled water.
See, and folks, as you're listening to this show, again, these are the things that my generation, as I said, what kind of water is he talking about? As we have different guests on this show, according to where they are, what age they are, the time of what's going on in our society, it never would have dawned on me, even right now. I'm not even going to talk about how much I love my water and I buy water. But I think even now you can get in fact, let me say it. I know you can get a glass of water in any restaurant. What do they say to you when you come to the table? Would you like some water?
Any water?
But you're so prim and proper, Mr. Brooklyn Ghettoite. You forgot that water is still sort of free.
Yes.
That's yes. Wow. I will be laughing at you when we're finished for the rest of the day. So just know that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's get to our next question. Now, let me just ask this because I want to know. How old, first of all, are your children right now?
My children are currently 15, 13, and 11.
Wow. Oh, there's a lot of attitude going on in your house right now, isn't it? Which one is the girl, and how old is she?
The girl is in the middle. My little CEO, she is 13 years old. Okay. Yeah. So I would not say, I would say that my children have a touch of sarcasm, and that's a big joke in our house. And my wife is very sarcastic, so I think they all get it from her. Okay. I would say that they have more sarcasm than attitude, but I will tell you, I was warned as a teacher. A kid once said to me, Cozy, Mr. Williams, when your daughter turns 13, it's over.
15 more. Well, yeah, it's getting there. And that's, again, it's just called hormones.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, I'm a brag. She's a wonderful young lady, and my sons are wonderful young men. So maybe it'll be over, but it'll be a new journey and a new chapter I'm looking forward to. I love my kids beyond.
Well, again, DNA plays a part. You seem to have found somebody with some good DNA, and that's a fact. People out there, if you think you just have kids with anybody, this is what this show is about. It's not. It's something to be considered. Background, yes, brains, right from wrong, what was given to us. When I brought up the idea of different parenting, one believes in discipline, the other one believes not in discipline. The one does believe in education, maybe the other one doesn't. That will cause havoc as you raise your child. And more importantly, what it's really going to cause is a whole lot of confusion because you're not on the same wavelength, right? So you guys seem to be on the same wavelength. Your next question, now that I know this is a great question. Because I have did, what do you do to encourage success? And I did some examples: chores, social skills, educational expectations, relationship development. You can take one or two of those and run with it. What are you doing to encourage success in any of those areas?
The first thing is actually nothing that you mentioned, and the first thing is nicknames. I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and after I read that book, that was when I started referring, and you heard me say it earlier, I started referring to my daughter as my CEO. I refer to my oldest son as my MVP and my champ, and I refer to my youngest son as the creator, because he's got a lot of creativity and a lot of imagination. And so then I also talk to him about what he can do with that imagination from an entrepreneurial spirit. My daughter, the CEO, running things, owning things. My son's got dreams, probably like a lot of young boys who want to be in the NBA, and yet I still talking to him about owning a team one day or running a team. So that's what I do to set them up for success. It's the nicknames, and it's the vision of what they could be doing. It's not just about going to school and getting a good job, but it's about running things, owning things, creating things.
It's called planting seeds.
Yes.
It's called planting seeds, and keep those seeds watered the entire time. And by the time they get where they're supposed to be, they've heard it enough, they believe it, they achieve it, and they become it.
Yeah.
Right? Good
really important. Really important. Oh my
goodness,
important.
You're giving me chill bumps. All right, here's a question for you, or one of your questions. What do you find is the most challenging part of raising your children? Or if you want to take one of the three, you can do that as well. What is the most challenging?
My wife and I actually had a conversation about this today. And the answer has been decision making, meaning giving them the opportunity to make decisions. So I'll tell you, and this is the flip side of the water bottle story. We were on vacation in Florida. We decided to go to Disney, and we're trying to decide whether or not we want to get one of those hopper passes for a little extra money. So my wife and I step outside, and we talk about it, and we say, you know what? We want to ask them. And we had this conversation that a lot of parents would either say, no, we're not going, we are going, and this is how we're going. But my wife and I have really embraced allowing our children to be a part of a lot of decisions. Not every decision, but a lot of different decisions, because it's so important as they grow up as responsible adults to be able to have that ability to make decisions. They say something about how we make thousands of decisions in a day, and there are some really important decisions. But what makes that hard is that when we empower our children to be a part of the decision making, as children, sometimes it's hard for them to figure out when they're a part of the decision making and when they're not a part of the decision making. And I remember growing up, and sometimes they would say, they come across a little child named Cozy, who is probably 3 years old, and said, Cozy is 3 going on 32, right? So sometimes I feel like with our children, they're 13 going on 42, because they're so accustomed to making decisions that sometimes they feel that they need to be a part of every decision. So, and my mother once told me, I'm the mother, you're the child. So sometimes you can be a part of the decision making, and sometimes what we say is what we say.
I'm just so excited over here. All right, here comes your last question before your fun question. Share a panic moment, again, children or child, and how you overcame it. Every parent has a moment where panic sets in, and part of what you just said a moment ago is part of that, where I'm the parent and I have to make this right so that my child develops correctly, or develops in the vein in which you and your wife are saying. What is a panic moment? And again, pick a child and how did you overcome
There's so many. There's so many. There really are.
it? Really?
Yeah, because I think as a parent, you're always worried. Or at least I can speak for myself. As a parent, I probably worry too much. I'm probably going to be that dad when they're all 55. I'm still sitting on the couch at 2 o'clock in the morning waiting to get a phone call just to make sure that everybody got home all right. My family went out to Prospect Park in Brooklyn on one of them tandem bike rides. My children were much younger than they are now. And I will fast forward and say only my wife and I could pedal this tandem bike because the children were not tall enough to reach it. As a matter of fact, my youngest son could only fit in the basket in the front. Well, Cozy, we went along the wrong path, and we found ourselves going up this hill. Well, a guy stops us and says, "You don't want to go that way," but we didn't listen, and we kept going up the hill. And what do they teach you in physics? What goes up must come down. And Cozy, we lost. Oh my goodness. We started losing control of this. I'm doing my best Fred Flintstone to try to stop this bike from going full speed down the hill. My two oldest children jumped off the bike like, "Peace, you're on your own." And now my son, my wife, and I crash into a tree trunk that was connected to a vine that caught us and saved us from tumbling over. I get chills every time I think about it, and sometimes we laugh about it now. But that day, my youngest son strapped in that basket in the front could have died. I could have died. My wife could have died. My two children could have been orphans. That was one of the biggest panic moments. I thank the Lord every day that we got another chance to be a family. That's one of the most panic moments I've ever had because it's so important to me to be able to do everything that I can to take care of my family and keep them safe. So that was a scary moment for me.
Wow. And again, the comedian me says, and someone told your dumb ass not to go. Sorry.
Cozy, you got to listen to other people. You got to listen.
Sometimes, even as adults, people are trying to steer us in the right direction. But that was the question, and yes, it's going to happen. It's going to happen as an adult, as a parent. Every parent, as you said, there are so many, and so thank you for sharing that. So here we are.
Wait, hold on, Cozy, hold on. I just want to add this piece.
Mm-hmm.
When you go tandem bike riding in Prospect Park, on the bike is a map for the course. We didn't follow the course. And I say that to you, Cozy, because what I feel about parenting is, you're right. There's no perfect parent. There's no right or wrong way to do this. But there are a lot of roadmaps. And I would hope that any parent, but I also hope that my children will also be very aware of the roadmaps that are in front of them so that they can prevent mistakes from happening in the future.
You are just so spectacular. Let's get to you are and yes, you thought you looked forward to this and I want to say this with all due respect to any and everyone who's listening. It just so happens that not only is Marc my first male and father guest on my show, for everyone out there in America, for those of you who thinks, and we know that they do, well, here's an example right here of a Black man in America who is taking care of his children and creating more responsible adults. I know everyone out there listening doesn't think it, but for those of you who do, take a snapshot, print it, put it on your wall. He is right here for all of us to see, and I, as well as so many of society, not just me, we want you all to do your jobs. I don't care what color you are. Let's get out there. So let's ask you your fun question. And your fun question is, what would you do if you were invisible for a day? Do I want to know?
Yes, Cozy, you want to know.
I want to know.
If
All right.
if I were invisible for a day, I'd probably walk. I want to say the planet. Let's call that a superpower. And I'd keep my eye on anybody who is in distress or being threatened. And I'd, with my best invisible self, take care of anybody who is trying to hurt anybody else. That would be my superpower, to look after other people. Yeah. Um, that's just who I am. That's the parent I am. And yeah, that's what I would do with my invisibility. Go around and protect people.
So now I'm sitting here saying to myself, is Mark going to come to Vegas so I can hug him, or am I going to have to come to New Jersey?
Why don't you come over to New York and I'll go to Vegas?
I have one of these hugs that takes the breath away. And right now, I just want to squeeze you and thank you for being a guest on Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition. Those of you who are hopefully listening and taking something away, again, it is not easy. It does not come with a manual. Each guest that comes on here every week, I allow them to pick the questions that they want to ask, by the way. The fun question I'm going to start after today, whatever they send, I'm going to ask another one because I have to have some fun while I'm being this serious podcast host, right? So, folks, one of the, again, the purpose of the show is to help those of you who are doing a good job, who want to do a better job, young people who don't have a clue. And I can say this with the utmost respect. You're not having a baby, people. You're giving birth to an adult. You're giving birth to a human being. And with that comes a whole lot of responsibility, a lot of thinking, a lot of everything. So that when you look at it in the baby, after it comes out and, oh, it's so adorable, it's got 10 fingers and 10 toes. Now what? My parents that I'm having on this show are the what, and they're giving you the why. So in closing, I want to do this every week. This is how I want to end my show. When you know better, you do better. I will see you next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And thank you once again for being a part of Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition.